Did you know that 85% of your engine wear occurs at startup? Yes, that is correct, and this is where Lower the Friction comes in by putting a protective, lubricating barrier on all moving parts. This now gives you full-time protection to make your engine last longer, run smoother, give you better performance, and improved fuel economy. People across the country are reporting some very exciting results. Go to lowerthefriction.com, place your order, and enter in promo code SOS to get 5% off of your order. That's lowerthefriction.com. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the weekly Secrets of Saturn livestream. My name is Jason Lindgren, in case you've been living under a rock. I'm your host. Joining me this week is Wayne McCroy, Crow 777, and the Great Baldini. This week, we're going to be discussing a lovely little document that just came out in July of 2020, and it's called The Internet of Bodies is Here, Tackling New Challenges of Technology Governance. I wonder if this has anything to do with the beer bug. You never know, right? Anyway, gentlemen, how's everyone doing?
Howdy.
Doing well here. Gee golly, would you think this would have anything to do with the beer bug? I wonder.
Yeah, is there anything that doesn't have to do with the beer bug?
It's right out of the gate at the very beginning of the document. It mentions it by name. So,
there you go.
The very first sentence in the foreword: in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. They just get it right out there to start with. That's the very first opening sentence in the foreword.
All right, well, let's get this show on the road here. The foreword says, as new technologies integrate with the human body, the opportunities and risks abound. In the wake of the beer bug pandemic, or more like not pandemic, wearable technologies such as health and location trackers have been thrust into the public spotlight, spurring not only excitement about their potential benefits, but also debate over their potential risks. Could these devices help public health authorities better predict, manage, and avert future outbreaks? How might employers use data from wearable devices to safely reopen businesses? What are the implications for privacy and equity? How might this data be abused or used for other intended purposes such as public surveillance? These questions are at the heart of new efforts by the World Economic Forum in collaboration with public health authorities, leading technology companies, and other stakeholders to develop and plot new approaches for the ethical treatment and sharing of health data collected by consumer wearable devices. Okay, so I'll start this off. This whole premise is coming on the back of complete and utter bullshit. Who wants to take it from there?
Well, I think we could just shut down the show. You've summed it all up.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. Cheers.
Have a good night, everyone. That's everything.
We can't join Rose 777 and I for the Poppycock Report tomorrow.
Well, how are we going to talk about the potential benefits after that statement?
All right.
I guess some people like being tracked, surveilled, and everything about them known. Who knows?
Well,
I guess it's handy if you want to order a pizza or something, and the pizza delivery guy automatically knows what you're going to order. I guess it does have some benefit.
Yeah, it does seem like the actual purpose of this document is simply to come up with some poppycock way to try to sell it as a positive. That seems to be the entire purpose of this document, is to try to cook up some way to
justification.
Yeah, exactly. To pitch it as a positive rather than its obvious and glaring uses. Yeah.
This is the nonsense that Alex Jones used to scream about all the time, and think of him as you will, but at least he put it out there, which could just be revelation of the method, of course, and probably is.
Ding, 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 ding,
but
ding, ding.
This is what he was screaming about since mid 2000s, I think, back when I first found him. And here it is, guys. Here it is. They've got their damned excuse. They've got this pointless nonsense of a non. What's that term they always say? Total nothing burger. I don't know where that phrase came from, but I've definitely heard it bantied around. But yeah, this whole thing has been a total nothing burger. As a matter of fact, the CDC themselves came out, as I'm sure most people have seen, to admit that. Oh, by the way, only about 10%,
6%,
6%. Excuse me. Yeah, actually, were beer bug deaths supposedly.
And they were all over 80.
So that I forget the number, but it's like this laughable. It's like, so that means
9,600 or something.
Point like 0.0000267 something or another lethality or something. It's like, oh, I'm quaking in my sandals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even more telling,
this revelation of method is coming 5 seconds after the initial lie now.
Right, and even more telling is the scrambling of people like Sanjay Gupta. Tried to say, well, that doesn't mean what it means, right? And
it does not mean what it means.
No. Fact checkers on social media come up and say, oh, that could mislead people. What, into doing math?
You wouldn't want to do any extra math anytime.
Oh my gosh, it's so ridiculous. It's just a comedy now of how desperate they are to try to save the narrative when it's right there in your face, and they go, no, that's not what it means. It's not real. It's, what? That's why that's why Rose and I do the Poppycock Report twice a week, because we're a place we just have to laugh now. It's just so ridiculous.
Oh, by the way, did you see that there's an asteroid coming right before the election? It's like they can't help themselves. Oh my God!
Wait a minute, I didn't know that. What's it called? It's got to have a name.
Oh, I didn't see the name, but you know what? You guys talk for a second, and I'll find it.
I was going to say, if you didn't, I will. But yes, it's scheduled to come in on the 2nd.
Do you know the name?
They're saying closer than the moon.
I believe its name is Joe Biden.
Who shit my pants?
It's going to be like 9K666 or something.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
If it's named Joe
take
Biden,
the toroid off that, and then it's correct. If you take the toroid off of the ass, then it is Joe Biden.
Oh, I was going to say, if it's Joe Biden, it doesn't know where it is. It's just lost.
It's true.
It came to the Earth because it was lost. But yeah, they're saying that it's coming in on the 2nd, right before the election. If I had to put any money down, I'd give some slight odds that they're going to say, okay, this is just a small one, and it's just part of a larger one that's coming in like 2 or 3 years, and then we have to make a deal with our friendly aliens to help us.
Oh, this one's actually supposed to strike the Earth.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. They're saying that it's imminent.
Maybe someone better call Werner von Braun. He can just cite Psalms real quick, and we'll all be safe again.
Exactly.
Asteroid 2018 VP1.
VP1.
Ooh.
That 7's up the butt because he is the 777 idea,
right.
so P is a 7. 1, so that's going to be 28, 29. Oh, it's a 911 encode. It's a bunch of 7s and a 911 encode. There it is.
Well, there you
Have
are.
you-
Oh, by
seen
the way,
my
before I
surprise
forget to bring this up, because I've forgotten to mention it more than once already, I'm going to be speaking at Flattoberfest on October,
Awesome.
is it 17th, I think? And I'm going to be doing, right now, I don't have it completely solidified. I'm still doing research on it, but the idea I have, and I'm open to suggestions here, is my first presentation I did last year was the social engineering of our worldview in space. I want to narrow that down to something that's more like 40s, 50s, 60s, where the absolute social engineering for the existence of NASA and the things that they did and how all that was implanted in the actual space age and how the 60s would not have been the same, because everybody knows I love the 60s. The 60s absolutely would not have been the same without the whole space age thing.
Even design, Jason, even the design of so many products.
Yeah, that's what I want to get into. I've got 45 minutes to an hour to put on a presentation. I think I could show a lot of stuff. So anyway, that's my idea, folks. Let me know what you think.
Wait, Gravy Jesus. Does this mean suddenly this is your second presentation at a flat Earth conference? Does this mean you're a flat Earther? You one of them flat Earth boys?
Well, I'll tell you what.
I
Tell you what.
I think it means if he has man boobs, he can't get into flat.
Well,
I'm sorry,
Killing
I
me
can't.
tonight.
he
bro.
went there.
Just trying to see if I can get Baldini to fall out of his chair.
Oh man, you're getting close, man. I'll tell you what, you're gonna have to. We're gonna have you do a stand-up comedic bit, or at least a sit-down comedy. So yeah.
I could check this out. So a baby seal walks into a club.
Woo. And 20,000 vegans just had a heart
You
attack.
think one of them would have seen it coming? That's it.
Hey guys, don't go over there.
Okay, sorry. Yep.
All
sorry
right,
about that.
so let me get the document back up. Anybody have any more fun and exciting riffs to add onto the opening statements?
the back to the document. Oh, serious time now.
Well,
we can just keep on. But again, my take on pretty much this entire white paper is, again, from their executive summary, to realize the full potential of the Internet of Bodies, we need robust, up-to-date governance frameworks and a way to pitch it so people buy it.
It seems to me they use anything as an excuse for more governance frameworks.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, here is one that I did learn from Alex Jones years ago that I still take to heart. They stopped calling it global government years ago and started calling it global governance. Mm-hmm. Now, those mean the same thing as far as I understand it, but no,
absolutely not. Because one of them is saying somebody's running everything, and the other one's saying these guys run everything.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay. There you go. I like it. All right, so let's dig into this a little bit more. This paper aims to... What's that?
I was going to really quickly mention, this, of course, comes on the heels of the announcement from Elon Musk, right, about the Neuralink.
We were going to get to that. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I was just going to mention that I have, I don't know if you can show this, but I'll put it in our chat here. I had an actual photograph of the pig with a chip implanted into it. If you can share that.
I can kick it over, and then I'll add it in as an extra source on OBS when we get to that point.
Cool.
So
we should be able to do it anyway.
We got 5G bacon already?
Fine swine, baby.
More than you know.
By the way, I have not been able to watch the chat room at all. So if anybody say anything important to me, I totally missed it all. Just send me a message with the little @ so I see it in orange. I think you know how that works. But anyway, all right, yeah. So of course this does come. When did they do that? Wayne, was it just like 3 days ago or something like that? Neuralink came out. Elon did a big old presentation.
Yeah, it was this past Friday.
Yeah, because I watched some of it and I was like, oh. All right, and apparently,
yeah,
I mean, just to give you
a couple pigs around.
They had 3 little pigs, yeah.
A couple pigs around, yeah.
And they huffed and puffed.
This one has a chip. This one doesn't. This one used to. That's pretty much it. You can't see where the chip is or where the chip was or anything. You know.
But the salsa was there, so we got that good going.
So, yeah, we'll get to that in a second. The whole thing was that, hey, we've shrunk this down since the last time you've seen it. It's completely unobtrusive, hypothetically. They just drill out a little bit of skull, and it goes underneath there. The robot that does the microsurgery does it in a way that it doesn't damage your brain, which is good, because I don't particularly want my brain damaged. Thank you. And Yeah, so that's what they were bragging about for about an hour and a half. But anyway, we'll carry on with this.
Are they gonna allow the networkable pig in Tel Aviv? That's my question.
Oink.
You cannot show the
That's
pig
not-
on television.
And by the way, Jason, I'm keeping track. I'm pinging you in the notes there in the chat.
Oh, okay.
And thank you, S. Cush, and also back up here.
Okay, we just got a
Matthew
couple
Ross.
super chats.
thank you.
Yeah, I have to actually pay attention to this for a second. So, yep, thank you, S. Crush. My pleasure. We're going to keep doing these live streams, absolutely. Matthew Ross, how do you think they're going to sell round 2 of the Beer Bug? The military set up camp on August 31st in my local city. Yeah, dude, you're getting it, and Australia's already been getting it. That's insane down there. How are they going to sell it? Oh, they're going to say, oh, we were too lax on the phases, and we let people do too much too soon, and now all of a sudden it's a problem all over again. That's how they're going to sell it. It's just going to be more nonsense.
I would point out when the military shows up, they're done selling. Now they're pushing.
That's an issue. That's a real
And
issue.
I keep the door open for them to legitimately release some sort of toxin or agent to say, see, we told you.
Absolutely.
I
Here's what they're
wouldn't ever
talking
put it
about.
past them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if that kind of thing starts to go on, the shelf life of this nonsense, I mean, the shelf life decreases immeasurably when they start violating universal rights outwardly. And it may come to that because it's already kind of out of hand. Nobody's like, just today I watched a clip of someplace in Florida, the city council, one of the bigger cities, getting served with treason papers during a meeting. This isn't, the amount of effort it will take for this to be maintained is beyond anyone's ability to keep it going, I think.
Well, here's the thing.
here's the big
Australia
thing.
is disarmed, if I understand correctly, right? Like, you cannot have weapons there.
Yes.
I think that's the
took
big
away their
difference.
Gun rights a while back.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I think that's probably the big difference right now. If we want to hypothesize for a moment, you can do anything you want to a disarmed society, and guess what? Poor Australia, they are. And it looks like 90+% of your people are taking it. And I'm really sorry for those of you who are awake to this stuff, like our friend Amanda I see in the chat room. I mean, you're just getting pounded because no one's got anything to be able to fight back.
Well, they do have some brilliant legal minds down in Australia, as we have come to know firsthand. And here's the thing. A corporation, which is the bane of our existence, none of this goes on without corporation. A corporation has to follow rules. Without it, it's just law of the jungle, which means toughest guy in the room gets whatever he wants. They claim that corporation has all these laws, and what we've seen is they are pretty stickler about making loopholes so they don't have to violate laws. So what I'm saying is if the courts ever come back in any semblance of doing what they're supposed to be doing, there's going to be a lot of hell to pay, particularly in Australia, where there's numbers of people who are not fooled by any of this, filing papers.
Right. Now, here's the thing. You got to wonder, were all those false flags they've been pulling on us for years, trying to get the guns away so that when they pulled this nonsense, it would be a lot easier for them to be a lot more Gestapo-like? Inquiring minds want to know.
Well,
But
again,
here's
they
the
don't-
big thing. Here's the big thing they're pushing now. I don't know if you guys have been paying any attention to the mainstream news or the news programs or anything lately. But here's something I've heard twice now mentioned. Now, what they're talking about is come this fall and into this winter, when the regular flu season hits, along with this COVID thing, okay, they're calling it the potential for a twin-demic. This is what they're calling it. I kid you not. I've heard this twice
Oh
now
my
on
God.
separate news programs. They're calling it a twin-demic. So, what do you see them doing right now? Oh, go get your flu shot. They're really pushing these flu shots hard. And that's why. And now they just announced today, be ready, for states to be ready, that the CDC announced today for states to be ready for the rollout of a COVID vaccine potentially by the end of the year. So they're going to start pushing this whole vaccine agenda hard, and the reason they're going to do that is so people rush out, get their stupid flu shots, and get their, stupid COVID shot or whatever it is that they're going to give them now. And guess what's going to start making people sick? The flu shot and the COVID shot. And then they'll have this twin-demic that they were talking about, and then they'll say, "See, we told you, but because of those anti-maskers and stuff out there, just going and having big parties of 25 people and stuff, we couldn't keep this thing contained." That's the route they're going to go for it here in America anyway. I don't know about how they'll roll it out in the rest of the world, but that's kind of what they're pushing here. I see them setting the stage for this already, using the twin idea, the alchemical concept of the twin, right along with this right at the point where we're hitting the low cycle towards the winter solstice. So that's what they're pushing for.
And going back to the idea of, with all these events, every time gun sales actually go up, but I've said for quite some time that really they don't care as much about that. All they got to do is make ammunition really difficult to get, and then very few people have the means to manufacture
which they've been
themselves. Which I was going to say, Walmart already stopped. They just pulled all ammunition for handguns.
Did they really?
So, yep. So
people should look up the Dictac of 19. Remember what it is, Jason? 0309. I forget. The Dictac.
Be careful how you spell that in the browser.
Exactly. I think
Oh,
it's DICT, but it's bulletproof clad. The idea of the right to bear arms. The Dictac.
Yeah, I don't
that
remember
should
what
be
year
circulated around the universe.
Yeah, somebody wants to pull that. I'll read it on the air. All right. Let's get a little more into this document, even though I'm having a whole lot of fun right off the bat here.
Sorry about that.
This is great. This paper aims to take these efforts one step further, looking beyond the scope of wearable devices at the broader ecosystem of connected technologies that is coming together to create the Internet of Bodies, or the IOB. Now, this is something that Crow and I have spoken with Wayne about multiple times. Lena Poo has definitely got into some of this. This is a big deal. They're trying to make everything united under this Internet of Things is the blanket term for all of it, but they want everything communicating and being able to trace and track everything. They want to know every time you go to the fridge for a new ice pop and all that kind of stuff. As with any area of emerging technology, the IOB is evolving rapidly, and the future is unknown. Yeah, I don't know about that. I think you guys got a pretty good idea on what you want to do.
The future is unknown to you.
Yeah, to us. It is for exactly this reason that careful attention and thought, not simply on the part of business, but from government, civil society, and the public at large, is required. We stand at the beginning of an important public dialogue that will have major implications for public health, safety, and the global economy, and may also ultimately challenge how we think about our bodies and what it means to be human. Okay, that last line sounds a little Zoltan Istvan. What does anybody else think about that?
Yeah, I know what it means to be human. Does anyone else here know what it means to be human? I was born one, actually. Yeah.
And the last bit, this paper does not claim to provide a comprehensive view of all of the many facets of the IOB. However, it provides a glimpse of the myriad of complex issues that can arise when the cyber and physical worlds come together. We invite you to join us in this important work to shape the development, use, and impact of these technologies for the benefit of all society. I'm surprised they didn't get cute and call it a great work.
You're right.
But it's interesting. I don't know who wrote this document, but there were 3 grammatical mistakes just in that foreword.
There's another thing.
This keeps happening more and more and more. I don't know if anybody's noticed that, with mainstream articles and things these days. People's spelling and punctuation and grammar in general is going to shit.
Because of texting. But anyhow, IOB has the infinity idea encoded into it, the forever idea.
All right, so getting into this. Executive summary. To realize the full potential of the Internet of Bodies, we need robust, up-to-date governance frameworks. So right off the bat, they're saying, hey, we're going to make more things to control you with by law. Am I wrong here?
No, you're not wrong. And another thing people will notice is they like to use the word robust in many of these different white papers and policy papers, especially as it pertains to transhumanism. So you'll notice that term robust. There's something important about it. So I haven't really done a breakdown of, the etymology of the word, but there's something important there. I guarantee it.
Wayne, why don't you give everybody the quickie on what they're trying to push with transhumanism, what it is and all that, because this is really your bag, baby.
Okay, well, basically, this is actually one of the ways that they want to accomplish this quote-unquote great work. And it's a perversion of old alchemical ideas. And what they plan on doing is replacing the natural system that we live in with a wholly and completely artificial system.
Unholy.
Yeah. Well, I was saying holy as in WHOLLY, that being completely, not so much holy, but, it is going to be an unholy type of a system.
Indeed. Yep.
So that's the whole gist of it. They plan on trying to completely invert our reality from the natural creation to something completely artificial and controllable by themselves. And they're doing this through a science called cybernetics. And, this is something that we, as, a truth community, need to look at more heavily than what we have looked at in the past, because when you hear the term cybernetics, you think mostly of things like robotics and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and that's all part of it.
People are probably going to automatically equate that with something like the Borg from Star Trek or something like that. Why don't you explain what cybernetics is real quick, like what it really is?
Yeah, cybernetics literally is the science of control, or creating control systems. So this is what cybernetics is about. Cybernetics is actually derived from a Greek word, kybernetes, which means steersman or pilot.
Yeah, to pilot a boat.
It's all about control. And that's what this is. This is the science of control, and they've been studying it very heavily since, at least the 1920s at this point now. So you're talking, they're using this, and what this is, in my estimation, from the research and study that I've done on it, cybernetics is the inversion or the inverse of what we would consider alchemy or the natural sciences. So it's a perversion of the old alchemical ways, but it's also a complete inversion of them to create this artificial thing, and they use it as a system of control. So this is like your different control technologies that they make with this. And yeah, it is kind of overlapped with artificial intelligence and robotics and things of that nature. But people commonly get that misconception about it, that's solely what it's about, is like robotics and building machines and things like that. That's not it. That's not it at all. That's a major part of it. It's a component of it. But that's the ends to the means, or the means to the end, rather, I should say, is using this technology in order to bring man to the next step in human evolution, which would be considered either transhuman, or they call it post-human, or human plus, H2, human
H2,
2.0.
yeah.
There's many different phrases that they use to describe this. But what they call this is self-guided evolution. They see this as the means for man to take control of his own quote-unquote evolution and actually rise above and pull himself into the next level of evolution. Apotheosis, if you will. It's an old idea, okay? And they're putting a kind of a new spin on it, but it's all the same thing. But they see this being doable with the technologies currently available, and that's why they talk about doing things like being able to upload your consciousness into a machine and live forever, have immortality. This is the promise that they're looking at. This is what they see as, from their viewpoint, as achieving the quote-unquote great work, or the philosopher's stone. This is what they're looking at, and this is what they plan on doing. So transhumanism fulfills this for them. And I mean, this could be found mentioned throughout Freemasonry in different ways. They don't necessarily use the word transhuman or transhumanism, but they talk about this. And I actually was just looking at a source yesterday that talks about the whole purpose of this of Masonry, of Freemasonry, is to transform, and they use the word transform or metamorphosize,
Transmute.
or transmute. They use
There you go.
all these terms.
Got to use the alchemical term there, right?
Yep.
Right.
To transmute man from being a mere natural man into the Superman, and they use the term Superman.
Who used that
To
a
become
lot? That sounds
something
familiar.
more godlike, to become something more godlike. And this is actually, I think the guy's name was Wilmhurst, wrote this in a book called The Meaning of Masonry, and that's mentioned right in there. There's other sources that talk about this kind of stuff too, all throughout Masonry. And it's not just Masonry, it's all these different secret societies. It's all drawn from the same stuff in the ancient past. It's all drawn from the ancient mystery school teachings. And many of these teachings, even though in their original form were probably intended for good things, they've been perverted and twisted and inverted by these people who took control early on, by this class of priest kings of these royal family bloodlines that kind of took control over steering society. And they've been doing this, for as far back as we could look. And it's gotten to the point today where they see it being such a doable thing with the technology that they plan on forming a technocracy out of this, and that's what we're seeing coming into fruition today. The type of control structure is a technocracy. So there's a very small group of people at the top that are controlling all these different world situations and things by using this science of cybernetics to do so. And this is what we're looking at. This is what transhumanism leads to, because what they want is not only to be able to access and track and surveil you and know everything about you. They want to be able to actually get direct control of your mind.
Yeah.
So if they could control your perceptions, they could control your reality. And that's a scary thought. But I mean, the way they're trying to pursue it with these technologies, if they could put a chip in your brain where, they could actually read your thoughts and, transmit your thoughts into, say, the Internet of Things, or they also talk about not only the Internet of Bodies here, like we're looking at today, but there's another subsystem of the Internet of Things that they call the Internet of Thoughts. Mm-hmm. And that's what they are really looking for, because they want to bring the whole human experience, into this hive mind type idea.
A fictitious existence. Yeah.
Right. It's a very slippery slope, and it's a dangerous place to stand. And I would say that it's actually the destruction of the human soul. In my view.
Yeah, it's more than that, but you nailed it on robust, because the moment you said it, I knew it. So what the way you picked out that word backs exactly what you've said, where there's a real world made by the Creator, perfect in its delivery, called nature, and everything we do is basically a weak knockoff, a mimic of that. So the word robust, which is backing, and think about robot, robust. These words have relationships, but the word robust comes from Middle French. I posted it in 3 parts, but it literally means as strong as an oak. So there's your foundation, existing truly in nature, undeniable, being applied to this cybernetic nonsense, this fiction, this code, which has no existence in reality. But as I went through, it brings up the reddish idea, Latin ruber related to robigo. It keeps going on, but here's the kicker, Wayne. See Hamlet, and I think this is Act 3, Scene 2, unless I have that backwards. But that's the reference in etymology. Go see Hamlet. There it is.
Yeah, and when you get to this idea of the hive mind, as I've often said, that people don't have ideas, but ideas have people. And the hive mind with the direct interconnected Internet of Thoughts is that on steroids. Just broadcast an idea to direct injection. So people don't really have even, it's pretty close to that now with what we see with the full court press and the full spectrum programming through media, through every aspect of news and film and music. It gets absorbed so quickly that you can see its results very clearly on social media. When they present an idea, people immediately absorb and regurgitate it right away, as though it was the greatest thing ever. And it's pretty remarkable how successful they've been with that. But yeah, this takes that idea to the next level, certainly.
All right, let's get back into this. The Internet of Things, or the IoT, is increasingly entangling with human bodies. This emergence and fast expansion of the Internet of Bodies, the network of human bodies and data running through connected sensors, while offering enormous social and health benefits, also raises new challenges of technology governance. So they're already saying that they want to govern all this technology. And I don't hear anything about individual countries here. This seems to be a pretty big blanket statement by the World Economic Forum. The world, the entire world.
And they were directly involved, of course, with Event 201 and many other of these.
Shocker.
Yeah, right. As well as the lockstep thing from Rockefeller. They were directly involved with that. So all of these things, they've been directly involved in a tangible way.
Boy, it's almost as if they were in, the planning of this or something, Yeah,
you don't say.
It was almost like the World Economic Forum was in on the planning of this stuff. Go figure.
Nonetheless, it feels like a lot of this is rushed to me.
Yeah.
Well, you've been saying that a lot, and it wouldn't surprise me, because, again, did they get the guns away from everyone in the United States? No, they did not. So are they doing massive tyrannical things in the United States like they're doing in Australia and apparently now New Zealand, or at least going to attempt to? Not yet. Well, so you got to wonder.
They've got more problems than just that, because of the mindset that was still being pushed along as I was in school, 60s, 70s, 80s. these ideas were that we had founding documents, that we had freedoms, all these things, regardless of whatever you want to say is the truth about those documents. That is not so easy to remove. And so what they're going to have to do probably here is do the generational thing, either that or let the herd call itself, provide a bunch of terrible choices.
That seems
well,
to me.
Think about the next paragraph, and this could be, and all the controlled substances that are going to be legal next month, this technology will ensure there's extra cocaine in every household. And that's not a pun. That's not a pun. Yeah, that's not a pun, because that references Brave New World, and we see it already with pot, with other things, the kind of lax. I know people who work for some pretty high up places akin to Homeland Security, who were asked to come work for them because of what they could do in the world, and they replied, "Well, sure. What's your pay? I'll come work for you, but you got to understand, I party and I smoke a lot of weed." And they said, "Cool. We could give a damn. Just do what we want." So these are the things, and so the culling of the herd is a real thing, but that's the tipping point, Baldini. Well, if they pull the trigger, then what you're seeing is universal rights out the window. That will shorten their shelf life, by the way, if they do that. But I suspect it's more like, oh, guess what? Vicodin's free now. Everyone come down to Rite Aid and get your 500 pack of Vicodin, that kind of thing.
Sure. Well, Cora, what do you think of the idea? Again, I'm pretty much on the same page with you. What do you think with the again, the idea, as you say, that to me, much of what I see, right, is litmus test and the continued and amplified polarization of different sides, right? So those who awaken do so because they throw it right out there in the open. It's not even difficult to find. But those who are asleep still are, and more so, they're fighting. So once you get that fulcrum point pretty well defined, and now you polarize people into two different sides, then they can just back up and let them at it, right? They don't have to do any more work at that point.
In a way, that's the basis of our political system, but I would point out that fear is the main contagion, and fear is not conducive to waking up on any level.
True.
But I would further point out, and Jason and I are about to cover, Jason and I have this old, hour and a half, where it's primarily Jason asking me things about some of the natural laws that used to be called hermetic and other things too. But I think it's critical to get back to these ideas for the simple reason that they prove to you that for us to have good in this world, there's going to be evil. And as soon as you come to realizations, really come to that realization at an adult level where it hits you like a ton of bricks and now it's on board with you and there's no getting rid of it, you begin to realize that as night follows day and day follows night, we have no good in this world without what we call evil, and it will always be that way in this duality. And once you start to come at it in that way, you can start to understand how the 7 principles, provable foundational principles of this place are being leveraged. So even look at what Wayne just said with the twin-demic idea. Is anyone going to have to be clueless when that happens? Well, the sun's in the sign of Gemini, for crying out loud, and all these other things that will likely go with it. My point being is we've been trained to cry about a thing. It's like saying, you know what, I hate rocks, and I'm going to be pissed off about rocks until people get rid of all the rocks in this damn place. Well, the rocks will always be here, and when you grow up and quit being mad at rocks, you will further understand there is no living in this duality without bad things. And when you come to that realization, then you're better equipped to deal with jackasses going way too far to the dark side.
I see it a little different, but that's okay. I see more polarity than duality, but that's a conversation for a different time. Anyway, we can kind of continue.
I would defend it with the principle of rhythm, but we'll move on.
Okay, that's cool.
All right, with an unprecedented number of sensors attached to, implanted within, or ingested into human bodies to monitor, analyze, and even modify human bodies and behavior, immediate actions are needed to address the ethical and legal considerations that come with the IOB. The urgency of such actions is further brought to the forefront by the global make-believe beer bug pandemic, with extensive IOB technologies and data being enlisted for the surveillance and tracking of coronavirus.
Does anyone taken a look to see who's patented IOB? Someone must hold a patent on IOB.
I don't know. Maybe someone should ask Elon. He seems to be having his fingers dipped heavily into this jar of sauce.
An actor?
Elon.
Yeah, an actor.
Don't they make aftershave out of him?
He just became the 3rd wealthiest person in the world, so...
Now we got two actors that are very rich. Bill Gates is among them.
Yeah, they just put that tag on them. I mean,
it sounds
people
good.
Who have all the wealth, we've never heard of them. That's my take. We don't know who actually has that. They just got some people up front to take the heat. That seems to be again, if you really kind of go back and trace it, the people who really have the wealth and power, we don't know who they are.
Well, I'm pretty sure that somebody with the last name Rothschild has a lot more. I mean, maybe not in sheer cash, but if you think about how many different pies they've got in their ovens, I mean, you're talking in the trillions. And
the pies
makes Bill Gates look like a pauper.
Cats, though. You could have all the fiat in the world and you're still not rich.
Well, that's just it. They have control in how many different things. I mean, the banks alone. That's insane.
Sure. But again, I mean, it's just it seems to me that from what I kind of watched is that those who really have the power and control, they would rather hide in the shadows, right, and put somebody else up front. So do the Rothschilds have a lot of it? Absolutely. No denying it. Do the Royals? Absolutely. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Do these guys?
Are there people above them? Yes.
Yeah.
But I can't prove that. Well, let's be clear on this.
That brings up a bigger idea. There's the idea out there that the Queen got handed her walking papers and that she can no longer inhabit royal places or perceived royal places, no coats of arms, no castles, these types of things. If that's true, that's a pretty big statement because we've always assumed that the royals had some clout. So if she did in fact get handed her walking papers, that kind of narrows the field, doesn't it?
It does seem like something weird is going on. I don't necessarily buy any of the narratives that's been pitched, but it does seem like there is something strange going on. The last 18 months we've seen...
I saw a coat of arms fall off the gate. I saw that. Yeah, that was in the world news. They were throwing her coat of arms on the dirt.
Yeah, but I've seen hundreds of high-level CEOs and corporate executives resign their positions, all in all sectors of technology and business, finance. A bunch of bankers supposedly suicided. Right? I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on that they never tie together in the news. And they drop these little hints here and there. And again, Wayne and I were talking about
the 200 executives was the big hint for me. Remember that?
Yeah, it's more than that now. It's a lot.
Well, early this year is when it all started, before the beer bug nonsense hit. That's when they all started dropping off. And I keep saying this, the one that really set me off to being suspicious was Bob Iger from Disney. It's like, you don't walk away from a position like that just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
Unexpectedly, they knew. They freaking knew.
There's been now, to my count, more than 1,100 worldwide major CEOs that are making more than $1 million a year, that have CEOs and corporate executives, so like CFOs and that sort of stuff, directors of technology, that sort of stuff. But more than 1,100 that were making more than $1 million a year and had been there for more than 5 years. That was my criteria as I looked. And more than 1,100 now have met that, and most of them with almost no fanfare whatsoever. It was not because of a Me Too thing or anything. They just suddenly dropped, and that's in the last 18 months. So to my view, there is something definitely happening. Again, a lot of it in the financial world.
Yeah, but what, Baldini? So what's the implication that they said, yes, I'm down with the game, we're all going to play, I'll step down to do my part? Or they picked up the phone and someone said, get the hell out now, just do it? Which one of those do you think?
I don't know for sure, Crow. I mean, here's my guess is that there's something happening and they're running for cover, and whatever that means. But it feels like rats from a sinking ship. But they're going to flip the switch somehow, is my take on it. And whatever that implies. Again, I don't know for sure. I just know that what I see, right? I watch patterns and I watch this develop. So there's something happening. Whatever. I mean, you could look at it a variety of different ways, but I certainly know those things are happening.
Some of the nonsensical things seem to be being scrubbed away. Like fiat is a good example. Fiat currency got reset in 1913, sometime around 29 there was some kind of an adjustment, a big reset in 1971 when all the gold was pulled from behind. We're doing that again maybe this month. I know people who predicted the fall of fiat accurately. They said it would die within the next 3 years, about 2.5 years ago. They said there was no way around it. Here we are. And these are people that only trade in precious metals. They only buy and sell in precious metals. They won't have anything to do with fiat. and they're claiming that there's going to be an announcement probably in September talking about the new reset, which is every bit as big as the 1913 or the 71. But so that's
I suspect some sort of digital currency is what they want to roll out.
That's part of it, but they can't do it overnight. But the real question becomes, do we ever go to anything backed in value? And the other thing I would point out is all those royals who we always assumed had power, they're not royal. None of them are royal, and none of them have been royal for hundreds of years.
I would agree with that.
So that's being scrubbed out. I see a few things here and there that make me wonder. You got to wonder, does that 4-star general who has real observable power in the world, where he can pick up a phone and say, send a missile here if he wanted to, is he down with the world that's being shaped for his grandkids? And I would have to say, I don't think so. And I have met a lot of people in positions where I never would have met them doing the show that I do, because they're doing this job, but they don't like it, and they end up trying to contact me. And there are all kinds of signs of people in places that matter queuing up to try to end some of the nonsense. So I would just leave it that all is not lost here. But yeah, man, it's sucking pretty bad right about now.
Yeah, again, I can't prognosticate for certain. I just watch the patterns develop, right? And I just go, it's not by accident. So what does it mean? I don't have enough data. I mean, there's certainly a data anemia going on. But as I was going to say, I'm talking to Wayne, that I've started to catch a variety of news stories, which look and smell really funny, and they seem to be specifically passing messages back and forth with this specific kind of a news story. We'll talk about this at another time. But I think we both agreed that I've caught something here, and we'll talk more about that again at a later time. But looking for patterns in what we see in these news stories, it appears to be that is their primary method, or at least one of the methods of communication. They're passing information back and forth, and we're trying to crack the code a little bit. But it's interesting. But it does seem like there's movement, and movement at a pace that seems, from my view, to be unprecedented.
I think it is. A lot of this is dependent on opting in, and people are just too far asleep to even understand that's an option.
Right, and that's the whole thing. I mean, they've really rolled out probably a good decade worth of social engineering in just the past 6 months, when you really look at it. So they're packing all this in and just seeing how fast they could roll it out, and how much it's going to upset the apple cart, or how little it'll upset the apple cart. And that's why they've gone ahead and done things like mandatory masking and things of this nature, to see who's going to capitulate and who's not. It's a test. So they're testing the waters, and they saw, by and large, the vast majority of the public will go along, even if they realize there's something wrong with this. They're still going along with it. And it's the same thing here. Just here in Pennsylvania today, the Congress here went back into session to try to overturn the governor's veto, and they fell short just a few votes to do it, of the 2/3 majority. So the governor's stance holds up, his veto of this bill that they had come out with to end this whole lockdown situation here. And so it stands, and he just renewed his state of emergency another 90 days. So we're looking at December now still, with with more of this nonsense here. So yeah. So you could see, and people were really hoping that the government structure here in Pennsylvania would overturn this. But, if you're depending upon corrupt government to fix corrupt government, then that's a foolish kind of an expectation, really.
Yeah.
So
they just started
it's going to take massive civil disobedience to end this, but people aren't doing it. And that's why they're pushing so hard and, putting this stuff in place as quickly as they can now.
Or are they, and we just don't hear about it because that's not what CNN and Fox are going to cover.
That's true enough.
My brother in San Diego just sent me a bunch of stuff that I didn't even know was going on about the protests all over San Diego.
Yeah, they're not going to. They don't want to cover that, or if they do, they'd say it's a small group of people, right, that are crazy. Back to the question about who has the patent for the Internet of Bodies. Eric DeLine dropped a link, and looked quickly at the ownership of those patents. It was Lattice Semiconductor, and surprise, surprise, their primary thing is AI-controlled hardware security measures. So take that for what you will.
So who is the holder, Baldini?
Lattice, Lattice, Lattice Semiconductor.
And so that must be a Silicon Valley company. So we would have to know who's holding the paper on that, huh?
Yeah, their website says end-to-end supply chain protection with Dynamic Trust.
Wow, that's bold.
Yeah, that is bold right there.
So what they are going with is basically this idea of FPGA single wire aggregation, and this again, it's AI controlled hardware security, and they imply robotics very heavily just with the graphics on their home page. So latticesemi.com is if you want to just take a quick look at
public?
that.
Are they public?
It doesn't say. I'll have to look real quick here and see what they do.
It'd be interesting to know what their stock's doing if they're.
Maybe interesting to do a little background research into that company, because I bet you there's some mention of something called wetware in there. You know what wetware is, folks?
I am, apparently, according to them.
LSCC is their trading. So it's their stock.
The 33. They're trading under 33.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, LSCC.
It never ends, man.
Sitting at 30.51. They jumped up today.
Well, there you go. There's the keys to the kingdom. So are we looking at a Masonic owned at some level? But I would suggest that what the stock does in September is going to be a big tell for that company. I haven't read this whole document, but is there a conclusion of when they're actually trying to fake like this is going to be real? Well, they're claiming it is now, but I mean at some level that's visible.
I will say that their stock has gone from about $6 in April, right at the end of March, and all of a sudden they're trading right around $30 right now.
There you go.
So between April and now, so right immediately at April, they just before April, right at the end of March, they started going up on a steadily increasing trend with no real drops, only within the day here and there. But now they're up over $30, so they more than tripled in that time.
Boy, a little insider information about when the beer bug was going to hit would have made you rich on that stock.
You would think, and they wouldn't be the only ones. We see a variety of tells about prior knowledge from, there was more than 300 stockholders in the U.S. That hadn't traded anything more than $300,000 in the 4 years prior, that suddenly traded more than $1 million in the 3 months leading up to the beer bug. So right at the end of 2019, and most of those having to do with pharmaceuticals. So for what it's worth, again, I just watch things, right? And a lot of these things are tells.
All right, let's move on with this.
Yep.
The white paper.
Well, one more thing. Which exchange are they on, Baldini?
That is, you can find them on the Dow, the S&P 500. So it'd be this New York Stock Exchange.
Okay.
This white paper comprises two parts. Part 1 provides a landscape review of IOB technologies, as well as their benefits and risks. An examination of the ecosystem shows that IOB technologies are deployed not only in medical scenarios, but also across different sectors, from fitness and health management to employment settings and entertainment. The accelerating convergence of consumer devices and health medical devices also shows that the line between medical and non-medical IOB devices is blurring, so they're admitting it right there. Mm-hmm. This suggests that new strategies of governance are needed for IOB devices, which are traditionally subject to different regulatory agencies and rules. And they're also usually just put out by individual companies like Apple or Microsoft. It is worth noting that this white paper will not delve into gaming and virtual reality devices, nor the data from them. While related, these devices raise distinct issues from the more traditional health and fitness devices. Part 2 examines the governance of IOB data, focusing in particular on the regulatory landscape in the United States with a comparative perspective of regulation in the European Union. This part examines current regulatory approaches to IOB data, as well as the challenges raised by the rapidly shifting ecosystem, especially the wide adoption of big data algorithms. How many times have Crow and I talked to you about big data? Whereas IOB technologies also entail other issues, such as the physical effects of devices on users and liability for physical harms, this paper focuses only on the governance of data generated from IOB, particularly from health and wellness IOB devices. Two main findings for policymakers and stakeholders are highlighted. First, broad adoption of the IOB and frequent flows of IOB data across scenarios and sectors requires robust, there it is again, and consistent governance frameworks in both the medical and non-medical sectors. This is particularly the case for IOB data governance, as while clinically derived data is in general strictly regulated, the regulation of consumer-generated data and other non-clinical data is often, given the sensitivity of the data, uneven in terms of coverage and strength across sectors and jurisdictions. This is the case in, for example, the United States. Second, IOB data governance approaches and data protection laws need urgent updates to address the risk of privacy, unfairness, and discrimination brought about by common practices of big data and analytics. The risk presented by big data analytics exists with both medical data and non-medical data, as even de-identified medical data can be re-identified or misused in a way that causes harm and discrimination to individuals and groups. We therefore urge stakeholders from across sectors, industries, and geographies to work together to mitigate the risks in order to fully unleash the potential of the IOB.
Unleash is about right, but it's such a tell. When you start distinguishing what you're about in two areas, medical and non-medical, there's your first tell. But in the opening of this, they decided to trump probably what's biggest in the world, which right now is gaming, VR. All these things are going to take in far more money than anything else. Trumped Hollywood years and years and years ago in capital that they were taking in. But the truth of it is that the human body gets sick because it's missing something. Instead of surgery, you needed magnesium. Instead of having aluminum in your brain, you needed no aluminum in your brain. This is the truth about health. So when you start taking electronic devices as if they're about wellness, what you're seeing is the wholesale control of people. And I've wondered how long we're going to be before there are no hospitals. You're basically wearing your iWatch and your doctor's face comes on the screen and says, take this drug or that drug. That's, unless you need surgery, you don't go into the hospital kind of idea. I think that's where we're headed. But it's wholly a control mechanism through the idea of medical ideas, which is a complete farce because computers have no place in the health of a human being. Maybe monitoring and other things like that, but food is what cures people.
Okay, here's another important idea that actually was in a sentence in that. It says, this risk presented by big data analytics exists with both medical data and non-medical data, as even, and listen to this part carefully, as even de-identified medical data can be re-identified or misused in a way that causes harm. Okay, this is the important point with that de-identified medical data. This is what different organizations across the world, like the Global Alliance for Genomics and Health and various other ones, various databases that collect your medical data and say it's anonymous, like we don't know who you are, we just have this data, so we use it for research and this and that. They will assign what they call a GUID, or a global unique identifier number, to this medical data that they have on you, and it doesn't identify you by name or anything. That's what this is talking about, though. See, it says even de-identified medical data can be re-identified, and I think we discussed this in a previous show we've done together. If you think for 1 second that the artificial intelligence doesn't know who you are, you've got another thing coming, and that's exactly what this is admitting.
Yes,
this is exactly what that's admitting right there. So your medical data, even though they say it's anonymous and nobody knows who you are, guess what? The AI control system knows who you are.
Absolutely.
So you want to kick in the pants, Wayne? At the local Fred Meyer supermarket here, they have a little temperature taking station, and to activate it, I mean, it just basically shoots a laser at your head. You walk up to it, but to activate it, you either use your store club member card or your ID to activate it. And people are standing in line for it. I could not believe it. People were standing.
Why would you need to do that in the first place? I mean, come on.
Because of the beer bug. People are, some are legitimately scared, and it seems like others just think it's a novelty. Oh, you can stand here and get a quick temperature check. Cool. So they're actually doing it. Exactly. I blinked hard. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and the great Zoltar will tell you your future for a quarter, too. I mean, come on.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing. Even this whole body temperature thing is a farce, too. But there's a deeper meaning to that. And if you look at the tech companies that are putting out these devices and stuff, they're making a fortune right now. Even simple things like plexiglass. Go look who the world's biggest producer of plexiglass is, folks. You might be shocked. That's a homework assignment for you out there. Look at who's the world's biggest producer of plexiglass.
Oh, come on, just tell me. Just tell me. I'm lazy.
And look who actually owns that company.
Come on, Wayne.
Oh,
tell me.
no,
I'm lazy.
Paulie, you're not weaseling out of this. You got to do homework.
Oh,
I looked at this early on during the beer bug thing, just because I was curious who's making all the money on this. So if you go ahead and look up the major producers of plexiglass, and then look at the company that actually owns, like, the parent company of that company, you'll see.
I got it. Yeah. Okay. Lucite. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Okay. And then you know who owns them. Yeah. So okay.
Site, but no, even though if you look where the money's going, but yeah, that's the name, Lucite. I wonder if that's coincidental or not.
Lucite bird?
I've heard of that.
Oh dear.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, you're looking at this stuff's coming along, and they're really trying to normalize this whole idea, and that's what it's all about. They want all your medical data. They want to tie it to a blockchain utility so it never gets lost, or
blockchain. That sounds familiar.
So it's
yeah.
It's mentioned in this document a couple of times. I know we haven't gotten there yet, but I want to get you guys take, especially Wayne, on. We talk a lot about chips and implants, and of course we're going to touch on, Felon Musk, Evitz, later, and his Neuralink thing. But there also this has been going around a little bit, which is ingestibles, digital pills, that sort of thing. What's your take on that, Wayne?
Well, it's funny you should mention that, because I have a friend who's a good friend.
You have a friend who's a good friend?
I do. He's a
I want
friend
one.
Of mine.
I want one of those.
He recently moved away on me within the past couple of years, though, so I don't really see him much anymore. But he's a doctor, and he's a really good doctor, honestly. And he was telling me years ago about they have these pills that people could take that actually are able to transmit the data of when they were taken, and so they could remind these people when to take their medicine and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And this was years ago that this stuff, they actually had it. So I mean, there's a lot more ingestibles and stuff like that than we know of going on. It's ingestible. There's all kinds of crap in our food, guys. No doubt about it. Not only that, there's also something called smart dust that could be sprayed on an area or sprayed on crops or something, and you wouldn't even know it was there. And you could potentially eat it or ingest it that way, or breathe it in. That's kind of ingesting it too. You're taking in all these particulates all the time from the things they're spraying in the sky and various other modalities. But these are all ubiquitous sensors. Right.
Especially nanoparticulate aluminum, and of course with the radiation provided by the new 5G networks. Of course, that's especially as you get up in the millimeter waves. That's microwave radiation. Have you ever seen what aluminum foil does in a microwave?
Yep, that's why we make our hats out of it, man.
Well, yeah. So you got and the fact that nanoparticulate aluminum can cross the blood-brain barrier, which is largely now what is being proven to cause Alzheimer's. So imagine again that happening inside your head. That's awesome.
And a metal associated with Uranus, which apparently is sometime in the future as it pertains to us.
Yeah, there's a whole lot to the whole aluminum thing, but just beyond even the nanoparticulates of aluminum, they have these nanosensors, these ubiquitous sensors that they have. And they even have one called neural dust, and that's a real thing, too, for people to go look up. It's a type of smart dust that's specifically designed for you to breathe it in, and it works its way into your nervous system, and, it could track different information.
You know what? I just made a correlation that's probably boneheaded, but isn't it ironic that the chemtrailing ceased when the masks went on?
It is. I noticed the same thing, Crow.
Really? I still see some. Not as heavy, but I still see some.
It's not completely stopped here, but it is less than 10% of what it was.
Yeah, nowhere near. Did anyone see David Weiss's shot of the sun disappearing, not going over the horizon?
I did. I saw that.
So there it is. I don't think you could have done that 2 years ago with the level of chemtrailing. That's another thing. Anyone who wants to just to get off for a second, anyone who wants to do sun work, you can see the horizons now because the chemtrailing is so diminished. That's perfect for filming, but don't want to take you off track.
So again, is the timing of that coincidental? Again, once they, as we mentioned earlier, once they get the polarization in place, that you've got one side against the other, again, they can drop any pretense of fakery, right? Because people have already made up their minds, and it does seem this way in some regard to some of the things that they try to pull, like even in the political show, is that they kind of seem to have dropped much of the pretense of legitimacy, and they just kind of throw it out there. And those who believe, they already believe. You can say at this point, you could say anything you want. There's a car in space, and people buy it.
Well, grain silos are some of the best space vehicles that you can manufacture.
Apparently.
Those are awesome. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that was weird. My Skype settings just changed themselves automatically.
That's because Skype loves you, Crow. You know this.
Yeah, put everything out of my headphones into the speakers. Interesting.
That sounds like fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, Jason was busy launching antelopes earlier, so...
I was trying to. I couldn't get them to fly.
And what's interesting is, as we were in the last segment, everything for me, cascade failure. So I started to see some buffering on the YouTube stream, and then just as it was starting to repair, everything on Skype shut down, and then it all came back. It's weird. We're getting all kinds of goodies tonight.
Yeah, all that and cascade failure too. I hate it when my dishwasher detergent doesn't work right.
Oh, for the love of God.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to part 1. The Internet of Bodies is here. Well, great. Recent advancements in the Internet of Things are transforming the human body into a new technology platform that we didn't ask for, by the way. The human body as a technology platform. Recent technological advancements have ushered in a new era of the Internet of Bodies with an unprecedented number of connected devices and... This sounds like the same freaking thing.
Well, isn't it ironic now that you're thinking about it, say bodies? Isn't that typically when you say bodies, it's got a death overtone on it?
All right,
and that's
so,
not by accident.
Not
by accident.
I don't know why, but they rewrote the same damn thing in Chapter 1 here. So let's jump down to data-enabled social benefits. The variety and vast amount of data collected through IOB technologies is propelling transformations in health research and industry, especially with the development of the direct-to-consumer digital health market. IOB technologies have also been adopted to enhance work safety in high-risk scenarios, getting you used to crap like temperature checks, right? Furthermore, notable social benefits are detailed below. Enabling remote patient tracking and reducing cross-infection. Improving patient engagement and promoting a healthy lifestyle. Advancing preventive care and precision medicine. And enhancing workplace safety.
Again, doesn't it sound like they're just stretching, they're grasping for straws here? Any nonsense they can come up with to try to sell this as a positive.
Well,
I mean,
they're
plainly obvious.
Let's just be blunt here. They are pushing the idea that there's actually a real fucking problem going on right now, and there isn't. It's nonsense.
Number 1, enable remote patient tracking. There should be a period there, and then it should say 1.5, reducing cross-infection. When was this document drafted, I would ask?
July 2020.
That's when it was released.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Infection my poppy
yeah.
pop.
Well, you can see they're laying the cards on the table here. This is what they want. This is the quote-unquote contact tracing.
Well, they've got everyone convinced there's a problem. So, like, oh, by the way, we have a solution for all these problems. Like, yeah, you manufacture bullshit, and now you're pushing your agenda. That's all this is.
Gee, that sounds familiar, like a Hegelian dialectic or something.
I never heard of that. What's that?
Yeah, it repeats over and over. And as we said from the top, again, this entire document seems to be a pitiful attempt, grasping for straws, to try to come up with some positive to sell what is on the face of it, clearly invasive, surveillance state. I mean, it's like, hey, we're going to stick this thing in you to track you all the time. And what's it do? Let me see. It could be good. It's going to help your health.
We have to pass the bill to find out what's in it, right?
Yeah, but think about the cultural constructs that are already reflecting where we're about to go. And an example I would cite is like the heist movie. Remember in the 60s and 70s, there was the big heist. They were going to steal the diamond or something. Those were big. Think of Ocean's 11, the original. Now think of how people think about a heist movie. It's a joke. As a matter of fact, Rick and Morty just made total fun of the idea of a heist movie. Yeah. Because where we exist now, it's not possible to heist anything in that way. You can hack it, but you ain't walking heisting. Yeah, you ain't walking out of nowhere.
No, you can't do diddly squat anymore. Everything is tracked and traced. So,
in fact, even if you were to achieve, the age-old dream of invisibility, right? They'd still get you with thermal stuff, with all kinds of biometric data. Even if you were, invisible, even if you had the amazing clip of invisibility, you still couldn't do it.
You'd have a heat signature. So, I mean, that's
right. Exactly.
You'd also have an electromagnetic signature. Like
so I'm saying all the biometrics.
You need magic powers, literally, to get away with anything now.
You would have to dematerialize. Yeah.
I guess they weren't telling us the truth in Harry Potter and the Chamber Pot.
Yeah, right.
So let's jump down to risks associated with the Internet of Bodies. Along with the social benefits and innovations enabled by data from the IOB come new risks associated with the misuse of data that contains intimate details of personal health and behaviors. Admittedly, IOB technologies share many concerns with the Internet of Things, such as consumer trust, safety, security, and interoperability. Several aspects of particular concern are detailed below. By the way, doesn't this remind anybody how they have been building all these super centers to be able to manage tons of data, and everyone's like, I wonder what they'll be using those for. Well, I think I found something.
Yeah, you think? That's exactly what this is all about. It's going to be ubiquitous tracking of everything, like everything. Just to jump back though to the last section there, just an important thing here. Number 4 on that list of the data-enabled social benefits was enhancing workplace safety. You know what this means? You need to get the vaccine if you want to come back to work. That's what that means. So just to kind of break that down for people, because that's an important point. But back on topic here, though, what they're talking about now is, with all of these particular concerns they have with this is, safety, security, interoperability, this whole interoperability kind of thing. This is why they need the Internet of Things structure, in place, so that everything interacts with one another. That way they could track you no matter where you go or what you do, because your fridge will tell on you. Okay, your fridge is going to narc on you if you took an extra brownie or something, because it's going to be tied into your medical data. So your doctor will be calling you up on your smartwatch. Hey, you need to take your blood pressure pills, and you need to, lay off of the sugar because you're gaining weight. I see that. I see you took an extra brownie.
Yeah,
that
kind
fatty.
Of thing.
I had the munchies.
Kind of and how are they going to transfer all this data around, I wonder? Oh, 5G.
And probably 6G, I think, will be the better bet for that, because I think it's going to overload the 5G system if it comes online too soon with all of the, data. It's just not going to be quite, fast enough
to
transfer
say
at the rate they
666G?
want. Yes. Might as well be what it is, but...
Right.
All right, so let's get down to these other points. Interoperability and data accuracy. Issues of standardization of data and interoperability of technologies present important obstacles in combining and benefiting from different types of data from varied sources to improve medical care and advanced research. With millions of devices in the healthcare ecosystem deployed to monitor the human body, from the hospital bed to anywhere the IOB devices go with the body to which they are attached, the dominance of proprietary and closed communication methods results in vendor lock-in and a lack of interoperability between these devices at the platform technical level. Okay, so what are they saying here? They want open platforms with world governance rules to make sure it all works seamlessly between all of the devices and the control structure. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. And not only that, they want something implanted in your body that interacts with all this. So enter Elon Musk with his Neuralink project.
There you go.
And that's exactly what we're looking at. And then they're promising later, and you'll notice in the early section of this game, or this document, it talks about VR gaming and things like that associated with this. And that's something that Elon Musk was talking about in his presentation on Friday. They kind of brought it up, as kind of a joke, in a joking way. But
it's a huge
it's something
tell
they
that
really. Yeah,
but
it's
a
something
huge
they really
tell
have
that they're
planned.
saying that they're not even going to include it in this document, right? So they're specifically going after the surveillance aspect of it, rather than the what you would think would be a good sell, right? Is VR and gaming and vacation, sort of like the Total Recall, like the premise of the original movie. That it'd be a way to sort of a vacation in your mind, if you will. And they're ignoring all of that and going straight for the surveillance stuff, and again trying to come up with a good sell, and then they spend a great all of Section 2 has to do with getting around the laws, right? And again, my position generally is that they're faithless when it comes to that anyway. They just again, it's all just a premise, right? They just need a pretext for it.
We can
Right,
remember
and it all
for you
has to do-
wholesale.
Yeah, and it all has to do with the whole idea. First, they want to make sure that they roll it out as a medical innovation at first, so that it becomes a viable thing for the public to accept.
Yeah, that's what they've done with all the
Yeah.
implants. Is it's good for people who have been paralyzed. Yeah, we're going to use it for that. We're going to use it for to help people. They always produce that as again the original selling point, as they do similarly again with e-currency. They tout its benefits without again they try to minimize and ignore the very obvious about who controls it, right? So if they dislike what you say, if you post something they don't like, they just shut off your access to money. Sorry about that.
Yep. Yeah, but see, that's the thing. First, they want to roll it out first as a medical innovation, and then eventually develop the technology so that it becomes something more, a personal choice, like say a Fitbit or something like that. Same kind of idea. First, you have
And how long
you roll
before
out this device, and then you could play music in your head.
Sure.
just
Well,
from
and how long before they use it again as like a training tool, right? So if you get that extra brownie, they just give you a little shock. Nope. Right.
There
Just
you
like the
go.
dog barking training. They're going to give you a little electroshock. Nope. Don't have that thought. Right. That's a bad thought. Nope. Don't eat that brownie. It doesn't seem like
Yep.
it would be very difficult to make that step at all.
No, I mean that's the thing. I mean, technically, that is an avenue they could go with it. I mean, it's not unfeasible for that to be a thing, and that's the part of the danger of it. Not only that, there's also the danger of somebody hacking it. If you know what I'm
Sure.
saying?
With
So
all,
it would-
yeah.
they're
wireless
pretty good at.
connections.
Yeah, they're pretty good at hacking people's brains as it is. Could you imagine when they actually have a device implanted in there? Then they have total and absolute control of your perception.
And again,
They have to get rid of religion just to get to where you guys are talking, which is actively going on now, Vatican leading the way. And the reason I bring it up is I saw a clip from, what's the old Mel Gibson movie, Braveheart. And so Jason and I were trying to cover some important things in an episode that went down the toilet pretty quick. But in it, there was this idea that the highest crown that exists to this day is in Scotland. Anyone who's done research on Scotland will understand what we're talking about. The idea being that the Pope actually holds 3 lower crowns, trying to fake co-opt the highest ones. To get back to the point, in the Braveheart movie, he's kicking the hell out of the English. He's sacked York, and they're getting scared, so they send an envoy saying, hey, man, we'll give you titles, we'll give you this, we'll make you this, we'll change your whole life. And he looks them in the eye and he says, God makes a man what he will be. That simple idea that the creator or the creation has already made you all you will ever be would prevent the jump that we're about to take. I mean, what would you say, Wayne? Will someone with spiritual concerns up front opt into any of this?
I would say probably not. And I would be one of those folks with spiritual concerns about it. And I would not plan on jumping into anything like this or even trying to be coerced or forced into it. So it's one of those things where, it's a spiritual battle going on at the core of it. And you're right. You're absolutely
The
correct.
foundation, I would say the foundation of it, Wayne, but go ahead.
Yep. Yeah, I would say that too. It's at the foundation of it all. But I would say you're absolutely correct. They do have to try to eliminate the idea of religion, or at least unify all the religious ideas into one, in order to bring this about. And this is kind of where they're going with the whole transhumanist thing. They're trying to sell this into different religious philosophies, because there's all different kinds of religious groups and stuff that associate it with it. There's like a Mormon transhumanism movement. There's a Christian transhumanism movement. All these different major religions.
Wayne, I would suggest they've already succeeded. Proof of concept has already been achieved, because they faked the beer bug and then they closed every church, and people's spiritual values were so low that fear trumped what they should have never let happen. Their houses of worship be closed. That should have been. And by the way,
I agree with you wholeheartedly there.
If there is anything to a house of worship, then how is it that you can be so concerned about getting sick and dying or anything else? So I would suggest to you, proof of concept has already been achieved the moment they closed houses of worship based on this nonsense.
And I would say that's another testing methodology that they're using too.
Absolutely.
We've hit the point as a society of capitulation to the idea of subverting religion as something being secondary to governance.
We're going to have to get Jason just to permanently fake like he's the emperor. Because that's really where we've gone here. But the kind of ingenious method like that, just thinking about the houses of worship, which I did. And by the way, in the state where I am, probably, I'm not certain, but I would state one of the most Catholic states left. We have the most beautiful churches here, built out of Rhode Island granite, made by stonemasons, real stonemasons, operative stonemasons, men who carve stone, the real deal, not the fake deal. And they have been selling them off wholesale for about, I don't know, a decade. And in the last 5 years, it's speeded up. As a matter of fact, right after they burned Notre Dame down, there was a little stone church here called Notre Dame, which they said, oh, guess what? We're closing it. They did it at the same time. Lady of the North going away. But the Vatican is leading the way. Actually, they started near my birth. At Vatican II is when they drew the line in the sand, where all the things that typically underpin the foundation of spirituality in our world are going to be made mockery. The idea of being gay, being abortive, being all these things which are now mainstream Catholic ideas, all of it is being used to dismantle the religion in a way that is not recognized, and then the reach of that will go into Protestant, will go in everywhere, but I would suggest that they've already succeeded. The proof of concept was watching houses of worship close and not a peep made about it.
Did you see the little false flag nonsense they set up for that too? Early on in this beer bug nonsense, there was a preacher, pastor, or whatever, who opened up and had his service anyway, and then he got the beer bug and died. And of course, that got all over the papers. I mean, you want to talk about poppycock? Holy cow!
Well, Here's the latest version. The race card or the abortion card or the religion card are always going to make people lose their minds so they can't think anymore. Our mutual friend, you know who I'm talking about, said in his area, the black community was so taken with the Marvel movie that Wakanda Forever and the tattoos became a real thing, to the point where he was stating the people didn't even realize anymore that Wakanda's not a real place. Well, look at the King of Wakanda now.
Right.
That healthy,
and
vibrant man.
Yeah.
He just died of butt cancer right in time for the VMAs. This is the same game in spades, and this shows the reach, scope, and control of what we're talking about.
Yeah,
right.
Rose
on
and I
the
are going to cover
anniversary
that tomorrow.
I couldn't believe when he said that.
On the
Crow.
anniversary of MLK and
There you go.
Jackie Robinson Day, all of that stuff. It's amazing how it all ties together.
Yeah, Rose and I are going to cover that tomorrow as well.
Well, it also subconsciously represents a movie that was very important to the black community. They felt like they hadn't had their superheroes, which for the most part they had not. So this is another way to undercut the race card that's getting played now, to envelop those bad feelings, to subconsciously create more conflict based on nonsense, because Wakanda never existed and Hollywood never offered us anything that mattered.
Right. There you go. I mean, I was literally blown away when he was telling me one night about that. I don't remember if you were on the phone or not, but I remember talking to him. And he was telling me, like, how people are really buying into this. I was like, but it's not a real place. He's like, I know. That's the problem. People are buying into this. They're accepting it as real culture.
they were getting the insides of their lips tattooed, and instead of walking up to someone and saying, "Hey, dude," it was literally becoming Wakanda forever. It reached a fever pitch, which shows the subconscious execution. And by the way, Jason, our Saturday show, people may not put one and one together, but when we go into onomology and toponomy, this is the kind of black magic which warps the subconscious. Unfortunately, the subconscious is a part of our mind most of us have no clue exists or can access. The vast majority of us. And that's where the spells are hitting. And Wakanda is the perfect example.
All right, so we're running out of time. Let's see if we can get through the last couple points before we get into the governance side of this. Cybersecurity and privacy, risks of discrimination and fairness in data analytics, and that's it. That's all the points for that. But I want to at least touch on some of this. Part 2, governance of Internet of Bodies data. Current regulations address some but not all of the many risks introduced by IOB data. While the manufacturing and security of IOB devices may be subject to different government agencies and related rules, such as the Federal Communication Commission regulations and guidelines for manufacturing IoT devices in the United States, the focus here is on the collection, transfer, and use of IOB data, particularly the risks of discrimination that come along with data analytics. As discussed, the adoption of IOB technologies is not limited to the medical applications space, but spans different sectors. This is further complicated by the practice of data analytics, which constantly generates new data by combining and analyzing different sources of data regardless of its origin. All right, so data regulatory landscape in the United States and the European Union. This section examines the regulatory landscape regarding IOB data in the United States with a comparison to the EU. Relevant IOB data regulations in the U.S. are sectoral, with separate laws for different types of information, users, and situations. This is complicated for data controllers and users to navigate, and the coverage and strength of data protection may diverge significantly across sectors and by state and local regulations. While medical data is often considered sensitive and thus strictly regulated, non-medical data from consumer devices is not always subject to the equivalent strength of protection, even where physiological data, such as from fitness devices, is concerned. In Europe, by comparison, the General Data Protection Regulation is a non-sectoral and technology-neutral data regulation that provides guidelines for the procedures for collecting and processing personal data. In both the US and the EU, there remains a gap between anti-discrimination laws and the new risk of discrimination arising from data-driven inferences, profiling, and grouping. Extant regulations in the United States. The U.S. does not have a comprehensive data protection law regulating all aspects of information privacy or security. Data generated from IOB technology could be subject to 3 separate bodies of law and regulation: sector-specific federal laws and regulations, federal-level anti-discrimination laws, and state-level, county-level, and local laws and regulations. Now, why are they pointing out all this bureaucracy? So that they can propose, at the end, one great big law for the whole world. How about it?
And here's the other thing, too. I'll translate all this gobbledygook for everybody. We're leaving this purposely vague so that we can do whatever the hell we feel like when we want to people without them being able to object to it because they have no rights when it comes down to it because of these laws.
Yep. And by the way, we have a law for everything except this.
Right? That's just too funny. All right, so let's jump down here. Let's try and finish through this. Let's see. Relevant federal laws and standards in the United States. See, that would go under Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, Federal Trade Commission, the Fair Information Practices Principles, Gramm-Leach-Billy Act, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and the Federal Policy for the Protection of Research Subjects Common Rule. All right, so besides these, other specific regulations such as the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, COPPA, and at the FCC broadband consumer privacy rules may be relevant to the sharing and use of IOB-related data in varied specific contexts. Right, and again, I think what they're going to propose, even if it's not in this document because I didn't finish reading it,
that they just need something overall to say, okay, so this is how we're going to regulate everything. So Apple, you make a device, this is the rules. These are the rules it goes under. Microsoft, whomever, Samsung, all of you guys, this is what you have to do to be part of this, and this is where all the data is going, period.
And they've done that to a certain degree already with the Telecommunications Act of 1996. So basically, it's same kind of thing, except it's more than just say your telephone data or anything like that, your phone history. This is about biology now, your biological information going to some kind of a federal repository, and just much like all the communication traffic in not only the U.S. but all across the world goes through these different data repositories. One being the NSA hub out there in Bluffdale, Utah.
Right.
So you're looking at something like that, but it's going to be applied to not only your like cell phone usage or anything like that. It's going to be all your personal data, your medical data, everything, because when they're tying it into say your body, that's communicating all of your real-time data to this repository.
But it's also violating HIPAA rules, which is one of the few sets of laws we got that had teeth. Early on, as I was working as a webmaster and stuff, HIPAA was the one thing that didn't get violated. As far as I know, the first people to violate it was Google, because they had to go to a profitable business model, and they had the wherewithal to scoop something like 170,000 records protected by HIPAA, and they did it because they could. So in other words, the point I'm making is the entirety of those data collection centers are right now in violation of laws with teeth, and they're doing it in the millions. Yeah. So again, all is not lost here.
And blatantly, though, and let's not forget, I think it's important to note that with when Monsanto was able to get a patent for genetically modified corn, was one of the first ones that they did. It set precedent from and broke a long-standing rule that you couldn't in any way patent life, but because they made a substantial change to it, they were able to do that. Since then, there's been a cascade and a domino effect of legal tort that basically says that they can now, with some change in it, as long as they make a change, that they can now patent DNA, which, again, this implies that, for example, with the upcoming DNRA potential vaccine that changes your DNA, they could, again, with all the stuff that we've seen, the information I've seen on 23andMe and all these other DNA sampling agencies, they're taking control of your DNA. And so, again, if you, get this kind of vaccine that alters your DNA, they could literally, based on legal precedent, since they've altered your DNA, now claim ownership of you based on your DNA.
Yeah, not only that, I mean, then you also, touching back on the HIPAA law again, that's actually mentioned here in the document, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA. And I'll read this paragraph here because we'll see how they're setting up the loophole here to get around that. The HIPAA, supplemented by Health Information Technology for Economic and Critical Health Act in 2009, regulates the use and disclosure of protected health information by covered entities. Covered entities include health plans, healthcare providers, healthcare clearinghouses, and their business associates. The HIPAA also provides guidance regulating two methods that can be used to satisfy the privacy rules de-identification standard. Remember that. We talked about that earlier.
Right.
Expert determination and safe harbor. HIPAA's privacy rule does not apply to de-identified data, nor any data beyond PHI handled by covered entities.
You see, that's a bold lie, because you already pointed out that they can take de-identified data, use the algorithms to re-identify.
Yep.
So the point I'm making is none of it's legal.
It's not lawful.
They will make it legal.
I should restate that. None of it is lawful. Right.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go.
But they can make it legal with the stroke of a pen, and that's,
that's what they're doing.
My observation is that nearly all of the federal statutes are not lawful at this point.
All right, let's see if we can get through the rest of this. New governance challenges in the age of big data. The issues raised by expanding IOB technologies and the gaps in the regulatory landscape represent much broader concerns about the risks of data privacy and rights, as well as new challenges to data protection in the age of big data analytics. 6 of these pressing governance challenges are outlined below. Defining health data. IOB technologies have generated high volumes of physiological and biometric data that far exceed traditional definitions of health information, which mainly refers to patients' medical records and biospecimens obtained in clinical settings. Consumer wearables and body proximity technologies have proved valuable for capturing health and wellness data beyond medical facilities. There are other types of data, such as retail records and social media data, that could be used to deduce details about individuals' physical and mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I need to go any further with that, but think about what I just read there, ladies and gentlemen.
Deduce details about their mental health and their state by.
That's the catch-all. That's the catch-all. They've been harping on that for roughly 5 years. We just had a guest that got forced into this situation. If they find you mentally unfit, you may as well be wearing diapers in a kindergarten, because nothing you say or do matters anymore.
Yeah. And at this point, they're pitching the idea that if you challenge in any way or even question the mainstream narrative, that you are mentally unfit. So they've been pushing that really hard.
That's already the Chinese definition. Anything that goes against the party is mental health issue.
Yeah.
Oh, your social credit score will go down.
Talk about something like that.
Yeah, this is
going against the party.
This was not supposed to be an instruction manual.
Right, top-down gaslighting.
All right, point 2, balancing data utility and extant data protection principles. The proliferation of IOB technologies and the volume, velocity, and variety of data involved in analytics and predictive modeling is the most prominent and powerful aspect of big data. Basic principles of data protection, such as data minimization and purpose limitation, may run counter to big data practices that require massive quantities of data for algorithm training and often involve repurposing and combinatorial use of data. In practice, it is also difficult to foresee the purposes of the processing and secondary use of data. These principles, which have been guiding privacy and data protection policies in both Europe and the US, are largely derived from the fair informative practice. All right, so we can skip through all that. Point 3, governing personally identifiable information and personal data. Now, that's kind of an important thing, wouldn't we say? As data protection rules historically focus on personally identifiable information, or PII, and personal data, the threshold of identifiability and the possibility of re-identification become crucial to defining privacy risks. Existing requirements of de-identification, such as the HIPAA safe harbor provision that requires the removal of 18 types of identifiers, have been criticized for hampering research activities without offering effective privacy protection. All right, screw you guys. No, and we all deserve our own privacy. Let's jump down to 4, categorization of sensitive data. Some data is more sensitive than other data, and even non-personal metadata can be sensitive in nature. With big data analytics, inferences about someone's health conditions can be drawn from indirectly related health data. Health and behavioral data from IOB technologies can also be used to make inferences for predictions and decision-making in areas such as insurance, employment, and finance. Public and private agents may draw high-risk inferences, meaning inferences drawn from big data analytics that are privacy invasive or have low verifiability for claims and decisions that can harm the interests of individuals and groups. So in other words, you didn't take the vaccine, so you can't come in here. And we know that because it's in your biodata record. That is worldwide.
Even further, the inference there. In the last couple of months, there's been passing around a couple of documents from some tests that were run. They were trying to do using fMRI in real-time imaging, able to look at the part of your visual cortex that processes information, and by looking at what lights up, they were able to use AI and come up with a pretty startling representation of what the computer, what AI thought you were looking at, and it's actually pretty close in terms of shading, darks, and light. And the guy who ran the project, again, it's hard to know with what they're releasing in the media exactly what the truth is, but his remarks, like he said, he immediately got a cold chill ran down his spine when he understood that this could be used in a way of, again, to predict what people were thinking or, again, looking at, using it as a surveillance tool. And so this, I think, it could be combined with exactly these kind of inferences to, if you want to go to the Minority Report, right, preventing even thought crime. You're beginning to think in this way. You're beginning to show patterns of, quote, delusional behavior. You're starting to question what you're told. This data is, again, you can do it with enough data. You can do a lot of things, and it looks, again, from the top down like they're trying to make a case here, again, for how to pitch it and to make it sound good, how to get around the laws, and then finally how to implement it. That's the substance of this white paper.
All right, privacy, self-management, and consent. It has become increasingly challenging for data subjects to trace what data is being collected and how their data is used due to processed data's mutable character and the opacity of algorithmic codes. The mechanism of notice and consent addresses neither the opacity of algorithms and predictive modeling, nor the knowledge and power asymmetries between data subjects and data controllers. Therefore, the notice and consent model emphasizing the privacy self-management of individuals often falls into legal formality because of the purposefully arcane language and the impossibility of tracing and handling frequent data flows and the unpredictability of processing outcomes. So again, they're saying they need to update everything and have one great big thing to control everything. Point 6, algorithm grouping to individual-based data protection. Algorithmic classification systems raise a challenge to existing theories and policies of privacy, as current policies mainly focus on individual-level and personal identifiable information, which means individuals' claims to manage data about themselves often and once identifiers are removed from the data. Yet grouping occurs more through algorithmic forms of impersonal categorizations of behavior and prediction. The identity tokens created through grouping are often not reducible to or owned by individuals of the group. Decisions and policies based on algorithmic grouping will nonetheless affect the interests of individuals in the group, even though such grouping does not specifically target identified individuals. Doesn't this just really come down to that they want everything to be very specific down to the individual, so therefore they have to do it on a case-by-case basis, right?
Individually, but the overall, there's the overarching vagary of everybody, right? So in order to handle you individually, we must get all the data from everybody.
Right. Yeah, there you go.
That's exactly what they're saying. Just like my mask protects you and your mask protects
exactly.
me.
That's exactly the same thought process. Yes. In order to take care of anybody individually, we have to take care of everybody. Yeah.
It's a bit ironic, though, because the process automatically bean counts you, so it's a Brave New World again. It's the exact same thing. There will be classifications of people, and just you merely, or Gattaca. Gattaca was another good example of where we're headed, for the simple reason that belonging to a class of people already removes you from a whole bunch of possibilities in a lifetime, and that's where it's going. So these ideas are fraud on the face of it, and the idea that you can opt in, like 23andMe is a classic example of the fraud. You're interested in getting information about your ancestry, but what they're not telling you is what the data is actually being used for.
Right.
So there's the fraud on the face of it. And again, I will say, fraud has a shelf life, and everything we're living right now is fraud. And it takes so much effort to keep fraud on the tracks that this is not going to continue forever.
All right, we're almost done with this. Let's jump down to envisioning possibilities and options. To tackle these new challenges of technology governments related to the IOB, multi-stakeholder action is urgently needed. The following section outlines a menu of possible approaches, from regulatory to technological, to help mitigate these risks in order to fully unleash the potential of the IOB.
Unleash, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Unleash, once again. Building a robust and consistent system of governments around the Internet of Bodies. As the Internet of Things is increasingly evolving to be connected with human bodies, a robust and consistent system of governance is needed to address the risks of the expanding IOB. This means that, for example, in the U.S. context, a new governance strategy should be formed across the conventional division of medical and non-medical fields to address the broad dynamics of IOB technologies and data. Some experts
suggests combining the powers of the FDA and FTC, along with the Consumer Product Safety Commission and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Senators, who cares about them? They're proposing a Protecting Personal Health Data Act in 2019, proposing the establishment of a national task force entrusted with protecting health data. I wonder if that has anything to do.
Gee, that sounds like a great idea, doesn't it? A national task force?
Yeah, that's automatic. That's automatically just sidestep. It's like the European Union. Who voted for anybody? What's a task force? Who put them in charge?
Exactly. Let's jump down to point 2. Yeah, not the people, exactly. We didn't vote you in. Doesn't matter.
Think of the 9/11 task force. That was the last big one I can recall.
Or the Department of Homeland Security. I mean, we created a whole subset.
We must protect the fatherland. Addressing the outcomes of data inferences and analytics in data protection. As discussed above, current data protection regulations mostly focus on ensuring that data is lawfully obtained and that its processing meets the requirements of lawful grounds, but in general, extant regulations fail to address the risks of the outcomes of algorithmic deployment in all cases. To put it in a simple way, they concern mainly the input data rather than the new data generated from the algorithm. AI and data regulation should address risks of privacy and discrimination in data inferences and algorithmic analytics. Data protection experts have demonstrated that advances in big data analytics demand new protections for group privacy, addressing privacy interests of ad hoc groups formed by algorithmic classification. Well, again, they're just calling for more regulation from a top-down platform. Point 3, building up...
Also to sort people into groups. They're specifically basically saying how to sort people into groups based on the data.
Yeah.
We don't got to worry about these people. They all die in their 20s.
These idiots all wear masks, so they'll do anything we say.
Just about.
Yeah.
Won't even defend their house of worship. We got them.
Building up a repertoire of privacy-enhancing technology and developing a framework of decision-making. A broad range of technology solutions or methods have emerged to achieve specific privacy or data protection functionality, which include encryption, metadata, and digital rights management, application programming, system development, governance, identity management, etc. Besides the well-known methods of de-identification and pseudonymization, synthetic data is another approach to depersonalizing data. Synthetic data is fake data that has the same statistical properties as real data and can be used as a proxy for real data in AI and machine learning, software testing,
so we can
and
control
other
the
purposes.
outcome, right?
Yeah!
Skip the real stuff. We're going to manufacture the data from the top down and then tell you that our models predict this, so you have to do that.
Here, I'll give you a perfect example. There's a worldwide pandemic.
There it is.
Here is your example.
So fake, we can use fake data.
It's real. It has to be real because we faked it.
Have I made myself clear? They're already doing this. They are telling people there's a worldwide pandemic that doesn't fucking exist.
Because they did it, yes. Because their models suggested that these things would happen, so we have to do this.
Do you remember them saying that? That was early in the year. Our models suggest tens of billions of trillions of zillions of people will die in the next 3 days. Bullshit.
Exactly, and they're telling you right here, and they have for a very long time, and we talked about this. Oh God, Crow, like on 154, right, 156 of Crow 777 Radio, where we first got introduced actually about how they take this data and put it into simulated models, right, and then they that's how they do much of what goes on now is they have worldwide real-time simulations where they can run any model and see how people are going to react and respond, and again. If you just substitute some data and say, this is what we want to have happen, and so we just push it this way, and this is exactly the cybernetics that Wayne keeps talking about. So here it is. They're telling you right here, they manufacture data to get the outcome that they desire.
There it is. That's a stunning revelation of the method right there in this document. This is actually how they do things and plan things, and that's been what they've been using since day one with this whole pandemic thing going on. You could see they're talking about they're using fake data with, the same statistical properties as real data, and they're using this to come to decision-making framework.
Yes.
So this is what they're doing. They're saying this is what the model predicts, so this is what we're going to do, even though the model is based on fraudulent data and it's admitted fake data right there. That's what they've been doing with this whole thing, and that's why the data never seems to add up, and they release new data every day about this thing.
It
This
was
is what
so
it is.
yeah, it was so fake that they set up the fake data so they couldn't possibly undo what was real. None of it was real, and that's why when you start paying people $30K to write a word on an admittance slip or more, what you've done is you've prevented the possibility of real data ever being derived. Except we all know there was no real data to be had.
Right. And have you guys noticed this? I mean, something that I've observed with the weather is they get better and better at controlling the weather, especially these large scale events, tropical storms and those sort of things. I noticed when they had, what was it, a couple of years ago specifically, when they had what they called very accurate models, it seemed as though they were literally doing a model and then pushing it that way so that they could show you how accurate their models were. And it would be, I look back at some previous stuff, there's no possible way that they could have done what they claim to have done without actually controlling the outcome. Like no possible way. Statistical, almost impossible to do that. And so it seems as though that's one aspect where they try to show validity in their modeling is weather, right? Even though they have missed on several, but there was one where they their models seem to be, what they showed later almost seemed to be playing back the model. And it did seem to defy what people were actually experiencing.
And while we're on the topic of weather, we just had that whole twin storm event in the
right
in the basin down there in the Gulf of Mexico. So, I mean, there they go with that concept again. The whole
They can't help
twin
themselves,
idea.
man.
They can't help themselves. This stuff, it never ends. When you actually begin to be able to see with a set of eyes to know these things, it just never ends. It's like everywhere you look, you see their calling cards.
Yeah. So, yeah, as Eric DeLine said, they'd missed on a couple of them, right? And it seems to me like the miss is actually in the control. It's not precise control. It's kind of generally pushing, here and there, what it seems to do with the weather. And you can certainly see that with the electronic. I mean, you see wave patterns when you see that running through the chemtrails and that sort of stuff, and the way that they do that, that's absolutely waveform generated. I mean, it's not natural, right? So you can tell that they're absolutely doing it. It's interesting to watch, and they got a lot of stuff going on right now. That's for sure. Before we wrap up, while Crow is here, I definitely want to mention the 9/11 photo project as well. That we're going to try to capture some data.
Oh yeah, man! I've been so busy.
Getting close.
Oh, by the way, before I forget, episode 248 of Crow 777 Radio is going up tonight at 12:01. But where are things with that, Baldini?
So I was going to mention that tonight. I have let's see if I still have it here. I set up some cloud storage for it, and it's kind of weird. So they don't like FTP stuff, which would have been the easiest way to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'll have to basically give people access as they come. So the 9/11 photo project at gmail.com. I just pasted that in the chat. And so you can, whenever you get the data, you can send an email to that, and we'll give you access to the proper online folder, and then you can upload the data there. And so I was going to say, we, as it gets closer, we should take some time. I don't know if we want to do this next week, or I can drop something as well, just to, again, go through the premise and kind of outline what we're looking for and some of the better ways to capture it. I'd love to have you again as part of that, Crow, because it's your kind of idea, your brainchild. So.
Well, I'd be happy to with what time I can, and I'd be happy to also tell you I'm reasonably sure we will see the nonsense cake served piping hot between the 9th and the 16th. Is what I expect to see. I would further not be surprised if it had to do with water or metal or a combination.
Okay.
Ooh, metal water.
Mercury? What?
So let's do the last point
metal?
here before we sign off, and then we'll do final thoughts.
Sure.
Supporting data subjects and experimenting with the solidarity approach. Responsible use of technology should respect human rights and ethics. In order to fully realize the social benefits of IOB technology and data, users should be empowered with the legal rights of a data subject and a supporting system to execute those rights. Again, they're saying we need a top-down system so we can protect you properly. This requires a clearer definition of data ownership and better control of users' own data, which, they can't have that being different from country to country, so again, they need something from the top down. Users will be supported with the knowledge of how their data is used and the ability to access and correct their information, including the means to address unfair inferences and analytics. In response to social sorting and stratification powered by big data analysis, some experts advocate a solidarity approach to health data governance, one focused on societal and community good, because you give a shit about what goes on with our lives. This shifts the focus to the shared societal benefits and responsibilities, which motivates people to share data for the collective and individual good. Biobanks are a good example for sharing biological data. The solidarity approach of data governance treats data contributors as partners, and this involves explicit acknowledgement of the types of research that the database supports, and easy access for community members to research findings. Data subjects should also be informed of the potential risks associated with the participation. All right.
And here's the 200-page. Here's your 200 pages of gobbledygook to read through and hit the "I agree to the terms of service."
There you go.
That's what this is.
Yeah, but you're not mentioning the offer. You get 500 digital credits if you take the rectal probe,
Oh, nice.
It's true. You take the sensor, then you get the credits. You'll spend those on a loaf of bread, but at least you got the credits.
Yeah. Basically just say there, it's better to convince them to do it voluntarily than try to take it by force, and then we'll just lie about what it's being used for. So make sure we don't tell them exactly how we're using it.
All right, anybody have any final thoughts on this? I was kind of commenting in between as we were going along. I mean, this to me is obvious that they've probably already got the stuff already written to go through the United Nations or some bullshit. They already know what they want to do. They already know what they're going to do. They just have to convince you it's a good idea because beer bug. Anyone else?
Nobody's buying the beer bug. I even saw a top financial analyst the other day flat out say that it is the fake cause for the money reset because all the money people are pissed off because of what's going on, because everything they learned their whole life is now out the window. How can everything be crashing in the stock market through the roof? Makes no sense, right? But I would say we're going to run an episode that claims there's going to be an announcement from the Fed. I'm hearing from people that know. And by the way, that goes out after midnight tonight with Kurt Kallenbach. I'm hearing people echoing they think there's going to be an announcement from the Fed this month talking about the open admission that it is a wholesale currency reset. And that may relate to what Kurt talks about tonight.
Yeah, they have been using the term the Great Reboot, the Great Reset.
Yep.
In all their social media control, they have been using that term over and over again. So, from my perspective, this document, just again, the timing couldn't be more, I don't know if you want to say suspect or the lack of surprise is killing me, but essentially just taking it to the next step and saying, we're going to take your data, we'll take your DNA, and we'd like to implant you with this device. We hope you don't mind. Again, I do it for you, you do it for me. Remember the mask thing we did? It's just like that, and we're gonna help you. This is for your own good. And hey, you can download music for 24/7 anytime you like, or see a movie in your head. That'll work too. Sure, they'd like to convince people of that. So sign up at Verizon now for 6G.
Whoa!
There you go.
I know Kung Fu.
Show me.
And 9 other Japanese words. So karate and 9 other Japanese words. Yeah.
And
so,
we finally landed on Mars.
Mars, y'all. Exactly.
All right, Baldini, what do you got coming up?
Well, with your lovely Rose 777, we do, of course, Poppycock reports coming up in the morning. We'll touch on some of these subjects. Along with Elon Musk, we've got a couple of new features. We've got Florida Man, a recurring feature. We'll find Florida Man and all his hijinks, as well as semantics. So we'll take a look at that as well, along with the regular poppycockery that we get a whole jar full of. So that, and then of course coming up this weekend, again, just unintended consequences every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Pacific. That's noon Eastern time, and then do unintended or ancient wisdom for a modern world. That's early Sunday morning, 7 a.m. Pacific time, UTC -7, and then Wayne McCrory, who is right here with us, joins me every other week for Sola Scriptura. That's 5 p.m. Pacific time on Sundays, and then he's with me every other week, but I do it every week. So you can find me there. Oh, and don't forget, there's the 911photoproject at gmail.com. We'll talk more about that and in the coming days as we get a little bit closer. But we'll got some space for you already carved out on the interwebs, so we can drop some of that data when you get it.
Okay, we should have, Jason, we're already too far ahead to mention anything about that to matter, aren't we?
Well, I think that you should mention a little bit about 248 and 249 are about. I think we should get that out there tonight.
I was meaning the 9/11 project. I was so busy that it wasn't even in the front of my mind anymore, and so we've got 2 episodes already done, which will put us past 9/11. Okay. Basically, we've got some barn burners coming tonight. Kurt Kallenbach is back. There was a time I thought that I accepted most of what he did, and I could rip holes in a little bit. I don't think I can, man. I think he's spot on.
He nailed several things in this latest episode that you and I were both like,
Yeah, but it goes, for me, it goes further because it starts to delve into your knowing about the true course of spirituality that could exist for anyone, and I think he's right on the money. I can't find fault on any level with what he's doing. That comes out tonight after midnight. And then we got a hell of a show on Saturday with the lady who actually, Alana Goodland, who
Freeland.
actually, I'm sorry, I always do that. Freeland, who actually, it's good to be free, who actually edited the original version of King Kill 33. That's a hell of a thing. And we will have her back, but she's finishing a book right now. But that's all I got.
Wayne?
Yeah, nothing much coming up here anytime soon. I'm just trying to work on the new book and get that out. I'm trying to have that done within the month of September, or around some certain key dates, perhaps. Just trying to leverage the sky clock. So I'm trying to get that all knocked off. I will be back on here next week on Secrets of Saturn, and the following Sunday back with Baldini for Sola Scriptura. And I know we were possibly planning on doing another show together for Crow 777 at some point, but that'll be in the future coming up. Also, I would like people to go ahead and check out my YouTube channel, Alchemical Tech Revolution. I'm almost to the 1,000 subscriber mark, so that'll be a good thing once I hit that wonderful magic number. So
yeah,
people want to check that out, that'd be great.
How many?
How many?
What
I'm
did you say?
almost to the 1,000.
You can
He's at
start live
880
streaming
right now.
If you have
he
1,000,
makes
you're allowed
120.
live stream.
Right,
That's the big thing.
This is ridiculous. You just can't do it anymore.
No.
I got in early. I got lucky. But by the way, thank you, Wayne, for hooking us up with Alana Freeland. That was probably the best hookup we've had since I've been doing this.
Oh yeah,
at least
she's awesome.
at least among the top handful, anyhow.
Oh, and I'll just quickly mention this Saturday coming up on Unintended Consequences. I think I'll have it. It almost 100% that Seven Ravenwolf is in the chat tonight, and an interview with her I did actually a while back, almost 2 months ago, and so it's going to roll this weekend as they're doing a demonstration this Saturday in Australia. So that'd be a good one to catch and keep them in mind as they as they brave what's going on in Australia right now.
Yeah, to say the least. Good God. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this week. We don't have our topic picked for next week, so we will see you soon. Take care, everyone.
Take care.
By and by for all to see. Line of light, I might believe in heaven. I sign the times and ask you to stay. That's the living story. Take my hand and let's fly manifest inside me, an angel. The universe will speak, manifest inside me, an angel, for all to see. Manifest inside me, an angel. The universe will speak, manifest inside me, an angel, for all to see, manifest inside me, my angel. The universe will speak, manifest inside me, my angel, for all to see.